Hey, breasties, it's Nicole from Mommy Moxie. If you don't know who I am, then go back and watch it's the intro video on the YouTube channel. It talks a little bit about me and just like personal, get to know you stuff because I really want the focus of the videos that are on this channel to be education and just kind of sharing and sisterhood, but also to alleviate a lot of the fear that comes with being diagnosed with breast cancer. Because I know for a fact that when I was diagnosed, it was terrifying. Uh, so my diagnosis came in August of 2017. I we live in Arizona. My husband and we have two boys that are 8 and almost 6. They went back to school. It was August 7th, and August 9th, I was in the shower and realized I hadn't done my monthly self check. And that's because I wasn't having a period anymore because I was on the Mirena IUD. And normally I was a total feel it on the first and had forgotten just with the whole back to school stuff and everything else. It slipped my mind. So I was in the shower and went to go do the right side of my right breast and felt a lump. It was about the size of a small pea. And immediately my heart hit the floor because I just knew that it was bad. If you watch the intro video, you know that my family history is rife with all kinds of cancer. My dad and his dad died from pancreatic cancer. My mom beat colon cancer 2 years ago. We've had lymphoma in our family. My paternal grandmother had breast cancer in her 70s, 68 or 70. We have had brain cancer, all kinds of things. So I've been very, very proactive about all of my self checks, any of my preventative, like my physicals, all of that. Totally stay on top of that because I've known this was coming. And if you know me from Tangerines in Time, which is our health and wellness group, you can look us up. We are really focused on healthy living, and we use things like essential oils. And I've gone back to school to work on classes in nutrition. So for the past year and a half, that's what I've been doing. So when I found that lump, I just knew. I was like, oh my goodness, you have got to be kidding me. No, breast cancer was never even on my radar. And at the time, I'm 44 years old. So I came downstairs, and if you watch the video, you also know that my husband is a cardiovascular ICU nurse, has been for 26 years. And I said, hey, do me a favor, feel this for me. He's like, okay. And he's like, all right, what? It's probably just a cyst or something. I'm all, I don't know about that. I'm going to call a gynecologist. So I did. And she said, okay, can you come in tomorrow? I said, absolutely. Went in and, they had to have you get undressed. They put on that cute little paper, whatever that thing is. And she's like, okay, let's see. And so I pulled it back and she's like, oh my gosh, I can see it. Like I can see that there's a little lump over there. And I go, yeah. And it wasn't there last month. Like that, I could not feel that last month. She said, well, you know what? It's probably just a breast cyst. You have that in your family? I said, I don't know. Nobody's ever said anything about it. She said, it's probably just a cyst, but I'm going to send you to go get an ultrasound and a mammogram because you're way too young to be getting breast cancer. She goes, when was your last mammogram? I said, oh, November. She said, oh, okay. Let's just send you to go get an ultrasound. I'm gonna refer you to the Honor Health, which we're in Phoenix, and Honor Health is one of the hospital systems, and they have an amazing breast research center, and that's where I go get my mammograms. And she said, I'm just going to refer you there, and we'll see what they find. I was like, oh, okay. And the, black cloud still hovering in the back of my mind. Next morning, called up the breast center and said, okay, my nurse practitioner sent over a referral for an ultrasound because I found a lump in my breast. And the darling little girl on the other end of the line said, oh, okay, we can get you in on August 30th. And I about lost my, you can guess what, on the phone with this poor girl. And I said, okay, maybe you didn't hear me correctly, but I just told you that I'm 44 years old and that I just found a lump in my breast. I said, I have 2 young boys and a husband, and there is no way I am waiting until the 30th, which is almost a month away, for you to get me in for an ultrasound. I said, who do I need to talk to get this done? And she paused for a second and said, you know what, you're right. That's, yeah, okay. Let me make some phone calls, send some emails, and I'll get back to you. Within an hour, I had a phone call back. Can you come in tomorrow? Of course, I had something going on the next day, and I said, nah, I can't tomorrow. She said, okay, what about Wednesday? And I said, absolutely. I'll be there on Wednesday. Showed up that Wednesday morning, and, they get you all ready. And the really sad, awful, daunting thing about going into these places is that you're sitting in this room with all these other people in the waiting room, and there's husbands and whatever else, but you're sitting there knowing that either somebody's there for the mammogram and it's just an annual thing and it's no big deal, or they're there because they have breast cancer. And that sucks. Like, it's brutal. And you can just tell by the looks on the women's faces what they're there for. Like, if they're there and it's no big deal and they're hanging out, okay, they're there for a mammogram. That's just a routine thing. But those of us that look like somebody shot us out of a cannon, those are the ones that are in there because they're there for the diagnostic. Have you come back, they change you into the robe, the whole thing, they go back, you lay back in the chair, and the ultrasound tech comes in. Very sweet, so sweet. She starts doing the ultrasound, and it was taking a really long time, and she kept going over this one spot, and she kept, she's up in my armpit, and she's really going over it over and over again. She's like, will you excuse me for a minute? I'm all, bloody hell. Yeah, sure. And back in comes the radiologist. And he said, I am so sorry, but I have to see this. Like, I have to be able to get a really good look at this. Another impending doom, black cloud back there. Like, I'm all, oh my gosh, I can't even believe this. So they keep going over, and he's like, okay, there, now freeze it. Okay, there, freeze it. Okay. And he's like, okay, you can go get dressed. And I'm thinking, really? Really? You're gonna, okay, all right, just send me to go get dressed. No big deal. Come back out, and he's like, yeah, there's a couple spots in there that we are really concerned about. And he goes, and you have really dense breast tissue. So that makes it even harder for us to tell exactly what's going on. So we need to do a biopsy. And I've always been really 50-50 on biopsies, just because knowing how the cells work and whatnot, you're taking something, you're poking it in, and then you're going to pull that back out. Well, what's escaping out of there? But there's no other way. I mean, there's no other way to determine it, really. So I said, okay. And he goes, can you come in on Monday? I said, sure, absolutely. Can come in on Monday. Came in on Monday, and this is for a whole nother video. I will talk about the breast biopsies and show you the pictures. But when they tell you to take something beforehand for the pain, do it. Just do it, because it does not feel good. It hurts, and it's really uncomfortable, and you're going to end up black and blue. And for those of you oil users out there, even the Copaiba, geranium, whatever mixture that I lathered myself in afterwards still did not cut back on the bruising as much, because it was crazy. And they said, okay, well, they biopsied a spot in my under my arm, and they biopsied a spot in the right part of my breast, actually in 2 spots, because they couldn't quite tell what was going on in there. So he said, we will have pathology back within 24 hours because we don't believe in making people wait. The next day, 20 minutes before my boys got home from school, they called to tell me that I had breast cancer. And if you ever want to think about getting punched in the gut, the stomach, and the face at the same time, that's what getting a diagnosis of breast cancer feels like. You bawl. So I had to call my mom. I had to call my husband at work. I had to call my brother, my youngest brother. I wasn't ready to tell my middle brother yet. I had texted my best friend. And my other best friend who called me, and I lost it. And I'm not one of those overly emotional people, but man, you just don't know, because at that point they had no idea. Okay, we don't know what type it is. And at that point I had started doing research, and I had no idea that there were all these different types of breast cancer that you can get. Like pancreatic, you get pancreatic cancer. When you get colon cancer, you get colon cancer. And they stage it and whatever. Breast cancer, whole different thing. Whole different thing. So the doctor, the radiologist that I had seen the day before said, "I am so sorry. I did not expect this. I did not think that this was what this was." And he said, "I will have a nurse, or not a nurse, a patient advocate call you in the morning." So my husband got home, good cry together, called my in-laws who were getting ready to move to Phoenix, who were on their way, were packing up the last bit of their stuff. And I went and just prayed. I mean, what else are you going to do? You're literally you just got the slap. You know what slap I mean. So fast forward next morning, I definitely 9 o'clock got a call from the patient advocate, who my patient advocate is the bomb. I mean, she's amazing. And like I said, not everybody gets these perks that I get for living in a large city and for a hospital system that's amazing. Not everybody gets that. Sorry if you don't. I'm so sorry, because it's so helpful. It's so helpful. And if you don't get perks like that, please find a good support network, please. And she said, "Okay, let's get going. Can you be in the oncologist's office at 11:30?" I'm like, "Dang, girl, you ain't wasting no time, are you?" "Yes, I can." The definite benefit from working from home is that I have a lot of flexibility with my schedule. So a couple hours later, I found myself in the oncologist's office. Really nice guy. I really like my oncologist. He's a really good guy. Haven't I will tell you, being further along in the journey than the diagnosis, there's not always things that I agree with him on, but for the most part, he's really good. And we sat down and started talking about family history and about anything that was going on. And I looked at him and I said, "Okay, this is really weird for me, because for the last 2.5 years, I have been hyper focused on making sure that we have been really healthy, diet, boosting our immune systems, really taking care of ourselves. We have nixed all of the toxic and harmful chemicals from our home. I don't use, none of us use any bath products that rate above a 3 on the Think Dirty app," which if you don't know what the Think Dirty app is, we'll talk about that in future videos. I said, "The only thing I can think of, because there's no reason for me to have this other than, do you think this could be related to my Mirena IUD?" And he looked at me and goes, "You have an IUD?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've had it." I said, "They put it in the end of March." And I said, "And 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital with AFib. My heart went to AFib for no reason, no history of heart issues, none. I don't even really have heart issues in my family, but all my tests came back perfect." I said, "But they didn't think it was related to that." I said, "But I've had so many problems lately that this really seems like a connection." He goes, "Get that pulled out." He goes, "Get that removed as soon as possible." I'm not going to say that that's what it is, but get that out. So yeah. And the more we got talking, he goes, "Okay, so tell me about how you found the lump." Because he goes, "You were just in for a mammogram in November that was clear." And I said, "Yeah, it was just, yeah." I said, "I was in the shower, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "How long ago did you find the lump?" And I said, 2 weeks ago today." And he just stopped and did one of these. And he's like, "2 weeks ago today?" And I said, "Yeah." And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be horrible. And he goes, "Oh." And now, mind you, at this point, we had no pathology report still. We had no idea what kind of cancer I had, nothing. And he looked at me and he said, "You're going to beat this. You will beat this. I have no doubt in my mind." And I was like, "Oh," because if you have somebody in the medical field, or you're familiar with the medical field, you don't get that from doctors very often. And I said, really? Oh, that's amazing. And he goes, you have no idea how many women I have that come in here that found a lump months ago, but they thought it was a cyst or they thought it was, just something going on. He goes, especially with inflammatory, if you have an inflammatory one, they thought that something was just going on with, like, especially with young women that are breastfeeding. They thought that maybe they just had a clogged milk duct or something. He goes, I have women that sit on this for months, and by then they're stage 4. He goes, yeah. He goes, I have no doubt that you are going to beat this. And I was like, oh, all the praise hands for sure. So after that, my patient advocate had asked me, because they're in the same building, had asked me to come downstairs. And when I went downstairs to meet with her and my nurse advocate, she sat down. She's like, I have your pathology. She was all excited. I'm thinking, okay, I just met you, lady. Like, literally, I mean, besides on the phone, I literally just met you, and you are so excited for me. It's kind of funny. And she goes, you have the best kind of breast cancer. And I'm thinking, okay, there's a best kind of breast cancer. But now knowing that, yes, indeed, there is a best kind of breast cancer. So my breast cancer is estrogen and progesterone positive. Really funny thing is, mine's a little different than most people, because a lot of people get a really high estrogen percentage and a lower progesterone. Mine is a 98% progesterone and a 95 estrogen. So, and what does the Mirena IUD put in your body? A fake form of progesterone. So, thanks for that, Bear. Appreciate that. So the more we got talking about genetics and just all kinds of crazy things. And she said, look, we caught this early. This is a really good thing. And she goes, we are putting you with the best team that we have. She goes, and to be honest, it's the best team in the Valley. And I thought, okay, you always all say that, whatever. But literally, they paired me with Dr. Lise Walker, if you're in the Phoenix area. Lise Walker, she is rated the #1 breast surgeon in the Phoenix area. And then Louis Andreas, I think it's pronounced Louis. Oh, please tell me it's Louis. It's just Dr. Andreas. To me, he would be doing my reconstruction, because they had asked me, what do you think? What are you thinking? Like, and I'm all, I don't know. You just told me I have breast cancer. I have a stinking idea. But the more I looked at it, and then, because they had said, well, right now, the way it's looking, this is the size, roughly this is the size of the tumor, and it's a grade 2, which with breast cancer, they rate it on aggressiveness. And grade 1, not aggressive. Grade 2, moderately aggressive. And then grade 3 is your, holy crap, we're doing chemo like tomorrow. That's your triple negative breast cancers, some of the HER2s and things. And I did have a few cells that were aggressive, but she said, no, the majority of the cells, the vast majority of the cells, are grade 2. She goes, so not only do you have the one that's most beatable, but also the one that responds best to treatment plans and all of this. So that was really encouraging. And then they sat down and they gave me things to bring home for my kids, because we told the boys, and they weren't really understanding until they went home the next day, or until they came home from school the next day, after we found out. And of course, some charming child had told my oldest that I was going to lose all my hair and I was going to die. I'd like to punch that kid. I mean, I'm not even joking. I probably would. It might be a little punch, but I'd still punch that kid. Just saying. Jerk. So I left that meeting feeling empowered and strong, and like I knew that I was going to beat this. There was no doubt in my mind at that point. I'm going to win. So that was just kind of the beginning of everything that then started. And I'll talk more about, the MRIs that I've gone through, and the CT scans and the bone density scans and all the other things that they go through to make sure that you indeed are not in a stage 4. Because the thing with breast cancer is anything prior, so you've got stage 1, and I don't think, there's a stage 0, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then there's like an A, B, and C in those. And so it all kind of depends on the size of the tumor and if you have lymph nodes involved. And we already knew that I had a lymph node involved. So I was at least a 2, and we knew that the tumor was probably fairly good sized. And the later MRI confirmed that yes, indeed, my tumor was actually pretty big. But we'll talk about that more, and especially when I get talking about things like mastectomy, and because at that point, when they did say, hey, do you have an inkling of what you might do? And I said, yeah, it's probably going to be a double mastectomy because the tumor is too large, and I am not a chesty gal. I've had 2 kids, and they pretty much sucked everything out of there that I once upon a time had. I once upon a time had very nice but smaller boobs, and they destroyed them, but that's okay because I fed my kids, and I didn't really have any use for those puppies anymore. So I knew that that was definitely probably going to be the option. Was I was probably going to go the double mastectomy route because I live in Arizona and I wear a swimsuit a lot, and I didn't want to look like I'd Googled some pictures and I didn't want to look like that. So that's my diagnosis story. I will talk more about the tests and the next steps in the next video. So hopefully you'll be back. Thank you so much for watching this and for coming to this channel. I know that like when I first found out about my diagnosis, I got on and it was hard to find things that were more current and for things that were more educational. Like it was a lot of people, I found a lot of people's stories and those are great, but I'm a facts. I'm a nerd. I mean, come on. Look at all the books. I'm a facts person. I'm a knowledge, I'm a data. I love statistics, and I mean, I have a degree in business and psychology, so I should say something right there. Research methods was one of my favorite classes, and I will definitely talk about how to do your research in another video. Anyway, back to thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming. Go ahead and let's see here. I hope I'm always hitting it on the right side. That little red subscribe button, you can hit it there, or if you are on the Mommy Moxie website, there is a newsletter type thing, or there's a notifications in the right hand bar, the sidebar, that you can get notified every time we add a post on here. So thank you so much once again, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.